Trevor Malone, a 42-year-old architect and preservationist, poured his heart into restoring a 1920s red brick house in Texas, a family heirloom once owned by his grandfather. For 2 years, he meticulously rebuilt its sagging roof, crafted porch columns, and sourced antique fixtures, transforming the crumbling structure into a vibrant testament to heritage. Perched on a ridge outside Cedar Bend Heights, the house offered sweeping valley views, a treasure Trevor cherished. But his dream collided with the ambitions of Karen Galbraith, the HOA president, who saw his property as an obstacle to her vision of luxury condos. What began with a lowball offer of $190,000, half the home's value, escalated into a relentless campaign of harassment, fraudulent violations, and sabotage. Despite Trevor's property being exempt from HOA rules, Karen wielded her influence, citing petty infractions and enlisting Trevor's estranged brother, Daryl, to pressure him. While Trevor was on vacation, a deliberate crane accident demolished part of his home, nearly killing his cat, Percy. Armed with security footage, forged documents, and incriminating emails, Trevor fought back in court, exposing Karen's fraud and manipulation. Her conviction on charges of property damage and evidence tampering marked a hard-won victory. Rebuilding his home, Trevor turned it into Edge of the Law, a public museum celebrating resilience against suburban overreach. This story explores themes of legacy, resistance, and the cost of standing firm against greed, as one man defends his family's history from those who would erase it for profit. Historic house restoration. Trevor Malone, a 42-year-old architect specializing in preservation, dedicated himself to reviving a dilapidated 1920s red brick house in Texas, a property steeped in personal significance as it once belonged to his grandfather. This crumbling structure, perched on a ridge just outside the gated Cedar Bend Heights development, became his passion project after years of restoring banks, libraries, and churches across Texas. For Trevor, the house wasn't just a fixer-upper. It was a chance to resurrect a piece of family history that had fallen into probate limbo after decades of neglect. He invested every dime he had to secure it at auction, spending 3 years and substantial funds to breathe life back into its weathered walls. The restoration process was a labor of love, marked by meticulous attention to detail. Trevor rebuilt the sagging porch columns by hand, ensuring they matched the home's original aesthetic. He painstakingly restored the fireplace's antique tiles, preserving their intricate patterns. Scouring estate sales, he found doorknobs identical to those in a 1947 family photo, a nod to the house's storied past. Trevor's commitment went beyond aesthetics. He rewired the entire home, sleeping on a cot in the den during the process, and negotiated with plumbers and city inspectors, sometimes with a bottle of good whiskey, to meet modern codes while maintaining historical integrity. The house, once choked by ivy and battered by time, regained its dignity under his care, standing proud with its panoramic view of rolling hills and pecan trees. For Trevor, the house was more than bricks and beams. It was a tangible link to his heritage. His grandfather had built it, and his mother had taken her first steps on its warped pine floors. This emotional connection fueled his obsessive 2-year restoration, transforming the property into a personal sanctuary. The back terrace, where he savored sunrises, symbolized his triumph over decay. Yet, this restored gem soon attracted the attention of the Cedar Bend Heights HOA, setting the stage for a battle that threatened to undo Trevor's hard-won achievement and test his resolve to protect his family's legacy. HOA buyout attempt. Trevor Malone's restored 1920s red brick house, a cherished family heirloom, became the target of Karen Galbraith, the Cedar Bend Heights HOA president, whose ambition to develop luxury condominiums clashed with Trevor's refusal to sell. Karen, described as a self-appointed enforcer of uniformity, arrived at Trevor's doorstep with a manila envelope and a disingenuous smile, masking her intent to acquire his property for a fraction of its value. Her offer of $190,000 was a calculated insult, barely half the market value of the historic home, which Trevor had painstakingly restored over 2 years. This lowball offer was not just a financial proposition but a direct challenge to the house's sentimental worth. tied to Trevor's grandfather who built it and his mother who grew up there. Karen's visit was cloaked in polite rhetoric, praising Trevor's restoration as a nod to history while unveiling her beautification and symmetry initiative. This thinly veiled plan revealed the HOA's desire to replace Trevor's unique ridgetop property with a line of luxury condos, capitalizing on its panoramic view of rolling hills and undeveloped land. The house's location made it essential to the integrity of the neighborhood design, per Karen, but her true motive was clear. Trevor's home obstructed her vision of profitable, homogeneous development. The $190,000 offer was laughably inadequate, not only failing to reflect the property's market value but also disregarding the emotional and historical significance Trevor placed on it. He rejected the offer outright, declaring the house off the table permanently, emphasizing its irreplaceable role as a family legacy. Karen's response was chillingly composed, her unchanged smile betraying a shift in her demeanor, a subtle signal of escalating tactics. Her departure, marked by the sharp tap of heels on Trevor's cracked flagstone path, foreshadowed the HOA's relentless campaign to pressure him. This initial buyout attempt set the stage for a war of attrition, as Karen's polite facade gave way to a series of aggressive maneuvers, from petty violation notices to outright sabotage. Trevor's refusal to sell wasn't just about money. It was a stand to protect a piece of his heritage against a powerful HOA bent on erasing it for profit, highlighting the tension between personal legacy and corporate greed. HOA harassment and violations. Following Trevor Malone's firm rejection of the Cedar Bend Heights HOA's lowball offer to buy his historic 1920s home, Karen Galbraith, the HOA president, launched a calculated campaign of harassment through a barrage of petty violation notices. Despite Trevor's property being explicitly exempt from HOA jurisdiction, grandfathered out decades ago and confirmed by his framed deed, Karen's notices began arriving within a week of his refusal. These citations targeted trivial aspects of his property, such as a trailer improperly parked on his gravel driveway, curtains that didn't conform to the HOA's community aesthetic, and lawn height allegedly exceeding neighborhood standards. Each notice was a deliberate attempt to make Trevor's life uncomfortable, pressuring him to reconsider selling his cherished family home. The absurdity of the violations was compounded by the fact that Trevor's property was not legally bound by HOA bylaws, a fact he reinforced by sending formal replies citing zoning codes, land use maps, and property boundaries that placed his parcel outside their control. He even included a handwritten note stating, "I don't answer to HOA bylaws. Stop trying." Yet the HOA persisted, escalating their tactics. They sent someone to walk the perimeter of Trevor's fence twice daily, clipboard in hand, documenting supposed infractions. His trash cans were cited for being left out too long, and a city maintenance crew appeared unannounced to inspect his drainage system, claiming an anonymous request. Neighbors, influenced by the HOA's narrative, grew distant, with one even questioning Trevor's right to park his work truck on his own driveway. Karen's strategy was clear: weaponize bureaucracy and social pressure to wear Trevor down. The relentless citations, though baseless, created a sense of constant scrutiny, designed to make him feel like an outsider in his own home. This harassment wasn't just about aesthetics. It was a power play to force Trevor into submission, undermining his resolve to protect a house tied to his grandfather's legacy and his mother's childhood. The HOA's actions revealed a pattern of overreach, exploiting their influence to target a non-member, setting the stage for more aggressive tactics in their quest to seize Trevor's property for their luxury condo development. Construction encroachment. After Trevor Malone rejected the Cedar Bend Heights HOA's lowball offer and endured their barrage of baseless violation notices, the conflict escalated with the HOA's aggressive construction activities encroaching on his historic 1920s home. Karen Galbraith, the HOA president, orchestrated a development project to build luxury Cedar Crest villas just beyond Trevor's property line, directly threatening the panoramic valley view that made his ridgetop home special. The construction began with subtle but ominous signs. Small plastic markers appeared along the slope behind Trevor's fence, followed by heavy machinery, graders, excavators, and survey crews, clearing the adjacent lot with ruthless efficiency. Within weeks, a temporary site office and a sign proclaiming "Future Home of Cedar Crest Villas" luxury living with a view, stood provocatively close to Trevor's backyard, signaling the HOA's intent to capitalize on his property's scenic asset. The construction wasn't just an eyesore. It posed a tangible threat to Trevor's home. He noticed faint, rhythmic tremors every afternoon, strong enough to dislodge books and rattle picture frames. Initially attributing them to natural causes, Trevor investigated and discovered a hairline crack in his eastern foundation wall, a new and alarming development. Suspecting foul play, he hired a structural engineer, who confirmed that the tremors were likely caused by trenching too close to his lot line, a practice technically permissible if within the HOA's boundaries, but potentially liable if it compromised his home stability. Trevor's house, registered as a historic structure, should have warranted protection, but his attempts to access city trench permits and soil reports were stonewalled, with officials citing bureaucratic delays and requiring formal FOIA requests that yielded no response. The construction's proximity also brought deliberate nuisances. Workers pressure-washed Trevor's fence, accidentally damaging his flower beds, and a porta-potty appeared just 10 feet from his bedroom window. One worker repeatedly parked in front of Trevor's driveway, claiming HOA approval. These actions, combined with the physical threat to his home's foundation, revealed Karen's strategy. To box Trevor in, both literally and figuratively, making his life untenable until he sold. The HOA's public notices about enhanced landscaping and a new trail near his fence, absent from original city plans, further encroached on his peace, suggesting a deliberate misrepresentation to the city. Trevor's complaints to the zoning department, citing sunlight obstruction and historic site protections, were dismissed, as permits had been approved months earlier, likely during Karen's initial overtures. This encroachment wasn't just about development. It was a calculated siege to erase Trevor's legacy for profit, pushing him to the brink as he fought to protect his family's historic home. Family betrayal. Trevor Malone's battle to protect his restored 1920s family home from the Cedar Bend Heights HOA took a deeply personal turn with the unexpected involvement of his estranged brother, Daryl. The house, a cherished link to their grandfather's legacy, became a point of contention when Daryl, absent for years, resurfaced with dubious motives. Having pursued a life of quick real estate flips and questionable financial dealings, Daryl had shown little interest in the family home until it went to auction, where Trevor secured it. His sudden reappearance, driving a rusty SUV and exuding a forced charm, coincided suspiciously with the HOA's escalating pressure to acquire Trevor's property for their luxury condo development. Daryl's betrayal unfolded when he arrived at Trevor's driveway, claiming a stake in the property and questioning the fairness of the deed transfer after their grandfather's death. He hinted at legal action, producing a manila envelope from the HOA's lawyer, Karen Galbraith, suggesting a shared inheritance that never existed. Trevor, aware Daryl had been absent during the probate process, dismissed his claims, but the sting of betrayal deepened when Daryl revealed he'd been in contact with Karen. She had promised him a substantial offer if Trevor relented, effectively weaponizing family ties to pressure him. Daryl's alignment with the HOA was not just a personal affront but a strategic move by Karen to paint Trevor as unreasonable, even to his own kin, bolstering her narrative of community progress over individual stubbornness. The betrayal intensified as Daryl actively supported the HOA's agenda, appearing in their meeting minutes and community flyers as a concerned local resident and family member, endorsing redevelopment. He cited fabricated safety concerns about the house's structural integrity, despite its solid restoration, to undermine Trevor's position. These actions, including passive-aggressive texts to distant relatives about the family estate, revealed Daryl's willingness to exploit their shared history for personal gain, likely motivated by a $30,000 payment later uncovered in emails. This financial incentive, funneled through a shell company, exposed the depth of his complicity in Karen's scheme to destabilize Trevor's resolve. Daryl's silence after the house's partial collapse marked a shift, culminating in a remorseful note and a thumb drive with incriminating emails between him and Karen, admitting he thought it was just pressure tactics. His betrayal, though devastating, provided Trevor with critical evidence to expose the HOA's fraud. Daryl's actions underscored the painful intersection of family loyalty and greed, amplifying the HOA's campaign to dismantle Trevor's legacy for their profit-driven vision. Sabotage during vacation. Trevor's blow in their war against Trevor Malone's historic 1920s home came while he was on a family vacation in Portugal, a deliberate act of sabotage orchestrated by the Cedarbend Heights HOA. Trevor, a 42-year-old preservationist, had spent years restoring the house, a cherished family heirloom, only to face relentless pressure from HOA President Karen Galbraith to sell for luxury condo development. Her campaign of petty violations and construction encroachment escalated to a devastating act when Trevor, his wife Rachel, and their children were away, seeking a brief respite from the ongoing harassment. On day 9 of their trip, Trevor received a chilling notification from his home security camera. Motion detected near the east wall at 7:53 a.m. The grainy footage captured a large mechanical shadow, a construction crane, moving across the frame before the feed glitched and went dark. Alarmed, Trevor contacted his neighbor Stan, who delivered shocking news. The front wall of the house had collapsed, with concrete debris scattered everywhere. Trevor immediately rebooked flights, returning to find his home in ruins. The porch was gone. Half the eastern wall had caved in, and his grandmother's painstakingly restored stained glass transom window lay shattered. A crane loomed over the wreckage, its boom arm dangling like a guilty pointer. The destruction endangered Trevor's cat, Percy, who was later found alive but limping amidst the debris, rescued by firefighters after a tense search. The sabotage was no accident. Trevor overheard a worker admitting Karen had ordered the demolition to look like old masonry failure, aiming 264B5 EB9 17182836-975E. Destruction, fraud, and evidence tampering. The collapse was a calculated escalation in the HOA's campaign to force Trevor out, exploiting his absence to avoid immediate scrutiny. The absence of police or inspectors on site, coupled with workers hastily clearing debris, suggested an attempt to erase evidence before Trevor's return. This act of sabotage not only destroyed a significant portion of Trevor's home but also endangered a beloved pet, highlighting the ruthless lengths to which Karen would go to achieve her development goals. Trevor's quick response, including securing camera footage, set the stage for his legal counteroffensive against the HOA's criminal actions. Evidence gathering. Trevor Malone's fight to protect his historic 1920s home from the Cedarbend Heights HOA's aggressive campaign reached a turning point through meticulous evidence gathering that exposed their fraudulent tactics. After enduring harassment, construction encroachment, and a devastating sabotage that partially demolished his home while he was vacationing in Portugal, Trevor leveraged critical evidence to build a case against HOA President Karen Galbraith. His foresight in installing a security camera in the attic, pointed at the east wall closest to the construction site, proved pivotal. The camera, equipped with motion detection and local backup, captured the moment a crane's concrete slab crashed through his roof at 7:53 a.m., providing undeniable proof of the deliberate act. This footage, preserved with timestamps and synced phone logs, became the cornerstone of his legal strategy. Beyond the video, Trevor uncovered a trail of forged documents orchestrated by Karen. She presented a fabricated demolition consent form, complete with a forged signature in blue ink, contrary to Trevor's practice of never signing legal documents in blue, and an HOA letterhead despite his property's exemption from their jurisdiction. The form, dated after Trevor's departure for Portugal, was riddled with inconsistencies, including a fake notary seal and coffee-stained aging to feign authenticity. Trevor's passport stamps and airline receipts further debunked the document's timeline, solidifying his alibi. Karen's attempt to smear Trevor's reputation with manipulated video evidence backfired when his daughter Emma, skilled in digital forensics, analyzed a grainy clip depicting Trevor yelling at workers. Her diagnostic report revealed audio splicing, metadata discrepancies, and export traces from editing software linked to Karen's assistant, exposing the clip as a sloppy fabrication. The most damning evidence came from Trevor's brother, Daryl, who, after initially colluding with the HOA, provided a thumb drive with emails between him and Karen. These detailed a plan to declare Trevor's home hazardous, a $30,000 payment to Daryl's shell company, and a draft settlement contingent on removing Trevor's impediment to redevelopment. Trevor's methodical collection of this evidence, camera footage, forged documents, manipulated videos, and incriminating emails, transformed his defense into an offensive strike. Handing the original SD card with untouched metadata to detectives, he ensured the evidence's admissibility. This arsenal not only dismantled Karen's narrative but also exposed her fraud, evidence tampering, and defamation attempts, paving the way for a courtroom showdown that would hold the HOA accountable for their systematic assault on Trevor's family legacy. Legal proceedings. Trevor Malone's battle against the Cedar Bend Heights HOA's campaign to seize his historic 1920s home culminated in a robust legal response following the deliberate sabotage that partially demolished his property. After uncovering undeniable evidence, security footage of a crane dropping a concrete slab, forged documents, manipulated videos, and incriminating emails, Trevor launched a multifaceted legal offensive to hold HOA President Karen Galbraith accountable. His initial actions included filing complaints with the city's zoning department, citing sunlight obstruction, airflow disruption, and violations of his home's historic registry protections. However, bureaucratic stonewalling and pre-approved permits revealed the HOA's influence, prompting Trevor to escalate his efforts. Recognizing the complexity of the situation, Trevor hired a land use attorney, described as a fast-talking professional who confirmed the HOA's actions were legally dubious but challenging without direct property damage. The crane incident provided the necessary leverage, as it clearly compromised his home's structure. Trevor filed motions for injunctions to halt the HOA's construction, though these faced resistance due to the project's compliance with setback guidelines. Undeterred, he reached out to a local newspaper, resulting in a modest article buried on page 9, which drew limited attention but connected him with an activist group monitoring the injustice. The legal proceedings intensified after Trevor's return from Portugal, where he discovered the destruction of his home's eastern wall and porch. Armed with the attic camera footage, he immediately contacted the police, fire services, his attorney, and a local news station. This swift action brought officers and reporters to the scene, roping off the site and documenting the wreckage. Trevor's evidence, including the time-stamped video and forged demolition consent form, was presented to authorities, exposing Karen's fraudulent claim that he had agreed to the demolition. He pressed charges not only for property damage but also for fraud, evidence tampering, and attempted defamation, particularly after his daughter Emma's forensic analysis dismantled the HOA's manipulated video portraying him as hostile. Trevor's strategic delivery of Daryl's incriminating emails, revealing a $30,000 payment and a plan to declare his home hazardous, further strengthened his case. The legal proceedings gained traction when a reporter's recording of Karen's plan to circumvent court rulings via rezoning led to her cousin, the municipal planning director, being placed on leave. These efforts set the stage for a courtroom confrontation, where Trevor's meticulously gathered evidence would be tested against Karen's team of slick attorneys, marking a critical step toward justice for the destruction of his family's legacy. Court trial and verdict. Trevor Malone's fight to protect his historic 1920s home from the Cedar Bend Heights HOA culminated in a dramatic courtroom trial that exposed HOA President Karen Galbraith's orchestrated campaign of destruction and deceit. Armed with irrefutable evidence, security camera footage, forged documents, manipulated videos, and incriminating emails, Trevor, as the plaintiff, sought justice for the deliberate sabotage that demolished part of his home. The trial, held in a courtroom thick with tension, marked the first time Trevor defended not just a building but his family's legacy against Karen's unchecked ambition to replace his property with luxury condos. The courtroom proceedings unfolded with precision. Trevor's attorney presented the attic camera footage, played in high definition on the court's monitor, showing a crane's concrete slab crashing through his roof at 7:53 a.m., silencing the room with its raw impact. Jurors visibly reacted, one flinching, another covering her mouth, as the evidence laid bare the deliberate nature of the destruction. The forged demolition consent form, bearing Trevor's falsified signature in blue ink, contrary to his practice, a fake notary seal, and an HOA letterhead despite his property's exemption, was dissected for its inconsistencies. Dated after Trevor's departure for Portugal, It was debunked by his passport stamps and airline receipts, establishing a clear alibi. Karen's attempt to smear Trevor with a manipulated video, portraying him as a hostile threat, was dismantled by his daughter Emma's forensic testimony. She calmly exposed audio splicing, metadata discrepancies, and editing software traces linked to Karen's assistant, proving the clip was fabricated to defame Trevor. The incriminating emails from Trevor's brother Daryl, revealing a $30,000 payment and a plan to declare the home hazardous, further eroded Karen's defense. Her attorneys, despite their polished demeanor, struggled as the evidence painted a damning picture of fraud and collusion. A pivotal moment came during a recess when a reporter's recording captured Karen admitting to plans to circumvent the court via rezoning, implicating her cousin, the municipal planning director. This led to the director's suspension and froze HOA projects. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours, delivering a guilty verdict on multiple counts: property damage, fraud, falsification of documents, and obstruction of investigation. The judge, condemning Karen's unchecked arrogance, sentenced her to 7 years without a suspended sentence, denying her immediate appeal. Trevor's victory, though bittersweet, affirmed his right to his home and legacy, dismantling the HOA's campaign through the power of undeniable evidence. Rebuilding and legacy. After Trevor Malone's courtroom victory against the Cedar Bend Heights HOA, which saw President Karen Galbraith sentenced to 7 years for orchestrating the destruction of his historic 1920s home, he embarked on a 14-month journey to rebuild both the house and its legacy. The partial collapse caused by a crane dropping a concrete slab had destroyed the porch, eastern wall, and his grandmother's stained glass transom window, but Trevor's resolve to preserve his family's heritage remained unbroken. Using the original red bricks where possible, he meticulously restored the home, embedding a mosaic panel made from shattered bricks into the new entryway. This artwork, depicting a falling concrete slab, served as a stark reminder of the HOA's aggression. While his wife Rachel found it morbid, Trevor saw it as an honest testament to his ordeal. The city awarded Trevor a settlement for failing to enforce zoning compliance, and the HOA's insurance paid out over $1 million, most of which funded the restoration. With the remaining funds, Trevor transformed the house into Edge of the Law, a public museum and architectural exhibit that doubled as a defiant stand against suburban authoritarianism. The space welcomed school groups, hosted artists in its loft, and featured Sunday tours led by Trevor himself, educating visitors about property rights and historic preservation. A sculpture outside, a suspended concrete slab above a glass pedestal engraved with "Know Your Lines," symbolized resilience and vigilance. This transformation was more than physical. It was a reclamation of Trevor's narrative. The house, once his grandfather's and where his mother learned to walk, became a beacon of resistance against greed-driven development. By opening it to the public, Trevor ensured its legacy endured, countering Karen's vision of erasing history for profit. The museum's name and exhibits served as a pointed critique of the HOA's overreach, resonating with neighbors who, after Trevor shared evidence of Karen's fraud via a Dropbox link, rallied against her. Even minor acts of vandalism, like a spray-painted message claiming Karen was right on his mailbox, were swiftly addressed using new security cameras, reinforcing Trevor's commitment to safeguarding his home. Edge of the Law not only preserved the house's historical significance, but also turned Trevor's personal battle into a public lesson on standing firm against injustice. The rebuilt home, with its mosaic and sculpture, stood as a monument to his family's past and his triumph over a system that sought to erase it, ensuring the ridge remained a symbol of heritage rather than condos.